6:56 p.m. on Monday, 25th of February. Call to order meeting of the City of Floresville Audit Committee. Eric, can you give us an invitation?
Lord, bless us this evening to look over all the finances for the city of Floresville, to take care of all the insolvency and come to some resolutions, and be with us as we make all these important decisions for the city of Floresville. In your name we pray.
We have a forum: Councilman Castillo, Councilman Rodriguez, myself, Mr. Douglas Jones, Miss Deborah Conley is absent, she's attending the 4A meeting. The minutes should also reflect that also in attendance is Mayor Diana Garza, Councilman John Guerrero, Councilman Mario Morones, and legal counsel Chris Ho. We can stand and recite the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor of the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Do we have any citizen comment? None being noted, we go to the agenda item 1, discussion and possible action, city manager's report on insolvency plan. Actually, before we get into that, I see we've been handed an assortment of documents. I know there were 3 basic questions that we left with the last audit committee meeting. One was current policies and procedures so that we could review them. 2 was the refinancing options on the event center bond and those costs. 3, the ramifications of the going concern on the audit and recommendations from the financial advisor regarding that. Those were the 3 specific questions that came out of this audit committee meeting last. We've been handed an assortment of documents. It's going to take some time to process these. I think I'd like to give the council or the committee a little bit of time to look these over before your presentation on it.
Well, we can, my thought was that we would go through the documents verbatim in this meeting so everybody could listen that was in attendance. So we can go through each part that was handed to you. And, deal with it as it goes. That would be
Not one for going through documents cold. I like to have them in my hands, to have read them and be prepared to ask questions on them. I will have to take some time to read this and compare this to some of the other documents that we've had. I'd like you to go ahead and make your report.
Thank you, sir. Audit committee members, just a quick recap from the last meeting, February 8th, 2013. You were emailed staff recommendations for the insolvency plan. February 11th, 2013, we met as an audit committee. Questions were posed of staff members and asked to obtain the necessary information. February 12th, 2013, I met with Victor Quiroga, our financial advisor of Southwest Securities. Asked for assistance in obtaining the information that the audit committee requested. February 20th, 2013, a follow-up email with Victor was sent to see where he was, because it was a detailed request to answer these questions. Good morning, Victor, just following up on our meeting last week. When can we expect any documents for the audit committee? Your assistance is greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance. February 20, 2013, late in the day, we received his detailed information, and I will read it verbatim. Dated February 20th, 2013, to Mr. Andy Johnson, City Manager, City of Floresville, from Mr. Victor Quiroga Jr., Senior Vice President, Southwest Securities. Potential impact of a negative fund balance. This memorandum is in reference to our previous conversation regarding the city's financial condition and the potential impact of a negative fund balance on the necessary restructuring of the city's general obligation refund bonds, Series 2010, which is specifically with the event center. This memorandum is structured in the following order. 1, background information on the financing of the community center. 2, current financial condition. 3, impact of a deficit fund balance on future financing needs. And 4, benefits of a council-adopted turnaround plan. We call it an insolvency plan. There has been other cities that title it turnaround plan. Background information on the financing of the community center. On May 22nd, 2008, through competitive private placement sale method, the city issued certificates of obligation, the COs, Series 2008, for a par amount of $8,500,000. The original term of the Series 2008 obligation was 20 years, and the fixed interest rate attained was 3.91%. The 3 beneficiaries of the proceeds derived from the sale of the obligations were allocated as follows, and this is for the entire 8.5. The city at 23%, or $1,955,000. The 4A Sales Tax Corporation at 59%, or $5,015,000. And the 4B Sales Tax Corporation, or FEDC as we know it, at 18%, or $1,530,000. As you know, the 4A Sales Tax Corporation proceeds were used for the construction of the community center. During the summer of the year of 2010, the city informed us that they and the 4A Sales Tax Corporation pursued and incurred a direct loan from the Bank of America for $500,000 to be repaid over a 5-year term. The purpose of the loan proceeds were for the furnishing and equipping of the newly built community center. Prior to the city taking on this additional debt, we were not informed or consulted as the city's financial advisors. Our knowledge of this loan was not made until the city took formal steps to authorize a loan from Bank of America. Due to the additional required payments resulting from the $500,000 Bank of America loan and less than anticipated sales tax collection, the city and the 4A Sales Tax Corporation informed us that they wanted us to restructure their portion of the Certificate of Obligation Series 2008. Before the commencement of the community center debt restructuring, we informed the city that the first option would be to raise its interest and sinking fund tax rate, INS, to provide for the additional funds needed for the repayment of the CO Series 2008. However, we were subsequently informed that the city did not want to pursue this first option and that it was necessary to restructure the community center share of the CO Series 2008. After various meetings with the city and the 4A Sales Tax Corporation to discuss the information and impact of restructuring the community center debt, on October 14, 2010, the city issued general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2010. The bonds were issued using the negotiable public sale method. As opposed to the sale method used for the COs in 2008, the sale method used to issue the bonds required the city to attain an underlying credit rating which allowed the city to purchase a municipal bond insurance policy. The bond insurance served as a credit enhancement AAA bond rating so that the city would attain the lowest interest rate possible. In addition to attaining the aforementioned credit enhancement, in order to achieve the lowest interest rate and provide for future financial restructuring, the bond sold with a short term of 10 years with a shorter than standard call option of 4 years. The standard call option in the bond market is 10 years. Simply, the 4-year call option allows a city to conduct a restructuring of bonds as early as September 1st, 2014. The 4-year call option was designed to match the retirement of the $500,000 Bank of America loan. The city believed that once a Bank of America loan was repaid, in addition to more closely projecting the 4A sales tax collections, the bond would be restructured a final time. Due to these two factors, the intent was to pursue a restructuring as early as September 2014 and not continue with the current amortization schedule, which requires a large annual payment beginning during the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2016. As previously discussed, in order to attain the lowest interest rate possible, the city made an application to Standard & Poor's rating agency, S&P, for an underlying rating assignment and report. After S&P conducted their financial analysis and teleconference discussion with city staff, S&P assigned an A- underlying credit rating with a stable outlook. This underlying rating assignment subsequently allowed the city to purchase a municipal bond insurance policy from Assured Guaranty Municipal Corporation so that the city may market and sell the bonds with a AAA bond rating. A AAA bond rating is the best and highest available bond rating and thereby allows a bond issuer to receive the lowest interest rate possible. A copy of the S&P rating report dated October 7, 2010, and the rating chart defining the levels of rating is enclosed, and we'll get to that. On the sale date of October 14, 2010, the bonds attained a fixed interest rate of 3.08%. Current financial position. Preliminary as a fiscal year ending September 30th, 2012, the city's general fund had a fund balance deficit of approximately $355,419. As communicated to us, the utility system fund does not have a deficit in its fund balance. As you know, we are not auditors, but it is obvious that the general fund is not generating enough revenues to support its expenses. From an outsider's perspective, it appears that the general fund is and has been supported by the utility system fund. For many small or medium-sized Texas cities, this seems as common practice because it is politically easier to raise water and or sewer rates as opposed to property taxes. Nevertheless, the goal of the city, no matter the size, should be to not have the general fund depend on the utility system fund as a revenue source. Thus, the ultimate goal is for the general fund to be able to stand on its own financially and support itself. Impact of a deficit general fund balance on future financing needs. Deficit fund balances result in 4 consequences on a city's financing capabilities, whether to refund or restructure existing bonds or for the issuance of new money bonds for capital improvements or equipment purchases. The 4 risk factors of a deficit fund balance are as follows. Downgrade poor underlying credit rating. This negative impact occurs when the city applies for a credit rating in preparation of a bond issue or during the regular surveillance updates as required by a rating agency based on the industry regulations. When the city shows a negative fund balance and applies for a credit rating, the rating given may be changed downward, but most likely be put on a credit watch, meaning that if the city continues to show a negative fund balance and has no plans to ratify the situation, then the city may receive a credit downgrade in the future. Rating agencies look for an issuer to have a minimum fund balance of at least 2 months of operating expenses. Number 2, limited access to municipal bond insurance. Another risk factor brought on by a deficit fund balance is that a debt issue would not qualify for the purchase of a municipal bond insurance policy, which, as previously discussed, serves as a credit enhancement for a bond issue. The credit enhancement allows issuers to sell their debt using a AAA rating, which guarantees them the lowest possible interest rate at the time the bonds are sold. Number 3, fewer bond investors. An additional risk factor brought on by a deficit fund balance is that when the city issues bonds in the future and no corrective measures have been taken, then there would be fewer investors who would want to buy the city's bonds. 4, higher interest rates. Finally, because of a possible negative rating change and limited access to bond insurance, in addition to fewer interested bond investors, this may lead to higher interest rates on debt issuance. Of course, the level of higher interest rates will also depend on bond market conditions at the time of the bond sale. Number 4, benefits of a council-adopted turnaround plan. In order for potential bond investors to feel comfortable with bonds that the city will issue in the future, based on the city's current financial position, we highly recommend that the city council adopt a turnaround plan, which will show how the city intends to eliminate the deficit general fund balance and work toward a positive fund balance of at least 2 months of operating expenses. A turnaround plan should examine all revenue and expense line items for the city's various funds and identify specific areas for improvement and set concrete methods in achieving these goals. As part of this turnaround plan, the city should strongly consider the assistance from a third-party rate consultant specifically for the city's non-tax supported funds such as the utility system. Periodically, it's good practice of the city will encourage a rate consultant to analyze its water and sewer system for rate and operational efficiency improvements. And close with this memorandum, please find an example turnaround plan. I've received permission from this client to share with you what they adopted in 2004 to address their multiple fund balance deficits. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call me, and he lists a phone number. If we leave from that letter, the next page is the City of Floresville bond rating definitions and the importance of ratings. As he stated, we are from page 1 to page 2, underlying rating A-, and he stated what the A- entail. The next set of documents is the official report from Standard & Poor's, Public Finance, City of Floresville, U.S. $5,707,000 General Obligation Fund Bond Series 2010, dated September 15, 2010, due September 1st, 2020. This was the city's first and ever credit rating, and we did come back with an A-. We did buy the insurance that they're talking about, so we could borrow the money at a AAA category. So I think it's important that we go through this Standard & Poor's Public Finance document. It says Rational Standard & Poor's Rating Service assigned its A- long-term rating to Floresville, Texas Series 2010 General Obligation Refunding Bonds. The outlook is stable. The rating reflects our view of the city's access to deep and diverse economy of the San Antonio MSA, steadily expanding tax base, and adequate reserve levels. The preceding credit strengths are offset in part by our view of the city's high overall net debt burden and fluctuating financial performance, including 2 consecutive years of general fund operating deficit. The bond constitutes direct and general obligations the City of Floresville payable form ad valorem taxes levied annually against all taxable property therein within the limits prescribed by law. City officials will use bond proceeds to provide funds for the discharging payment of certain obligations. City of Floresville, population 7,744, is a county seat and principal commercial center of Wilson County. A+ underlying rating or spur. Floresville is located approximately 25 miles southeast of San Antonio on Highway 181, affording residents the ability to commute throughout the San Antonio MSA for additional employment opportunities. The local economy is based largely on agriculture, as the city has numerous facilities for receiving, dry, storing, and shipping peanuts. Upcoming development includes the addition of a super Walmart, which is slated to open this time next year, a new La Quinta Hotel, and a new Comfort Inn and Suite. City officials report that the local residential market has seen a slight decline in construction activity and values with the current average taxable value of approximately $98,274. Income levels for Floresville are adequate in our view, with median household affected by an income at about 81% and 79% of the state and national average respectively. The city's assessed value has grown by an average of 5% annually over the past 5 years to approximately $258.7 million for fiscal 2011. The tax base is moderately concentrated in our view, with the 10 leading taxpayer accounting for about 30% of the total fiscal 2011 average value. Market value per capita and indicator of wealth is low, approximately $33,408. We view the city's financial position as adequate. The city ended fiscal 2009, September 30th, with an unreserved general fund of approximately $72,075, which equates to an adequate 2% of operating expenditures. The city has closed the past 2 fiscal years with operational deficit, which city officials attribute to expenditures exceeding the budgeted amounts. The city's general fund balance was approximately $352,032 at the end of fiscal 2007. New city management has reorganized the city's finances, and officials expressed their intent to track expenditures more closely and budget conservatively. General fund revenues consist primarily of sales tax revenues, 41% of fiscal 2009 general fund revenue, property tax collections, 25%, and franchise tax, 22%. City officials conservatively estimate the fiscal 2010 ending general fund balance of approximately $232,387, due in part to expenditure cuts. The city has adopted a balanced budget for fiscal 2011. The city's fiscal 2011 property rate tax rate is approximately 32.27 cents per hundred of assessed value, which has not changed for at least the past 4 fiscal years. Standard & Poor's deems Floresville financial management practice standard under its financial management assessment methodology, indicating the finance department maintains adequate policies in some, but not all key areas. Key practices include conservative budget assumptions that utilize 5 years of historical data, monthly budget and investment updates to City Council, and a 5-year capital improvement plan that identifies funding sources for some projects. The city currently lacks formalized policies in the areas of minimal financial reserve levels and debt management. The city's overall net debt burden is high, in our view, at about 10.8% of fiscal 2011, or moderate on a per capita basis, approximately $3,606 after accounting for state support for overlapping debt from Floresville Independent School District, or ISD. City officials attribute approximately 58% of the overall net debt burden to overlapping debt, primarily from Floresville ISD. Debt service carrying changes for fiscal 2009 were just over 3% of expenditures. Amortization of city's debt burden is rapid, with approximately 87% of the municipal retiring over the next 10 years, and all of the debt currently scheduled to retire by 2028. We understand the city currently has no plans to issue additional debt for foreseeable future. Outlook. The outlook reflects our expectation that the city officials will remain committed to achieving operational balance between the city's revenues and expenditures, allowing the city to achieve a minimum of break-even operations or add to its reserves. The outlook also reflects our opinion that despite the city's limited future capital needs requiring the issuance of additional debt, the city's high overall net debt burden will likely remain elevated for at least the near term due to the overlapping debt. Standard & Poor's rating direct gives you a breakdown of how they come up with their plans, with their rating, I'm sorry. And at the end is a turnaround plan 2004, and we had received permission to utilize this or to review that, to use it as an example. We'll go by turnaround plan 2004-2005, City of Fort Stockton, submitted by Daniel Valenzuela, City Manager, for Mayor Tony Villarreal and City Council members, dated October 25th, 2004. On this plan, the table of contents, introduction, definition of turnaround plan, current city status, city goals, development of a turnaround plan, monitoring turnaround progress, conclusion, appendix 1 and appendix 2. I want to go through some details here, and you've received, in addition, a mirrored copy that states turnaround plan 2013-2014, City of Floresville. What was the directive that was on there? I think that's what he stated.
Directive number 5.
So,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
what,
Excuse me, Andy.
yes, sir.
I think given the action of the council
Yes,
in the previous meeting, council directive number 5 has no merit in this meeting. Therefore, I'm sure that item will be duly dealt with, but I don't see any need for council to be staying.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Back to the turnaround plan dated 2004, 2005, the city of Fort Stockton. Reviewing some of this information on the turnaround plan, attending the city manager clinic that I went to. Our circumstance is not new. Our circumstance is not just Floresville. Our circumstance has been dealt with by many other cities, and as many other people state, why create something new when there's somebody that's already gone through it, that's analyzed what they've done, and review it. I did review it on my own, and we will go through it as a committee. This one?
It's
Yes. Is
it's
it on?
actually attached to the back behind the standard and boards of the Southwest.
Oh, this
back here?
Yes, ma'am.
Meeting with city managers at the clinic that I went to, roundtable discussions. We are in a position that is not favorable, but that we can correct as a group, united. Let's go through this, if you give me the liberty of going through it, and then we can look at the turnaround plan. All that I did on the turnaround plan was look at what they had done in there. The issues that they addressed with their insolvency portion, which was substantially higher than ours, and they did recover, was utilize the information that they got, compile the staff recommendations that we had already presented to the committee, and allowed space for the committee to add what they wanted to add, to give direction to the city manager or staff of how to complete this. I did speak with the auditor today. She had received a copy of the staff recommendations, so she could start looking at that and see if that was gonna be sufficient, thank you. And she stated that it was a good start, and one of the issues was that her plan, the plan that we come up with, or that the committee presents to the council, for the council to approve, is gonna be a plan that is gonna be filed. It has to be approved by the council. It'll hold a lot of weight because it was approved by the council, and that's what's gonna get us to where we want to. Her audit comment is gonna state that we did work on something, the council did approve it, but it's not gonna detail everything in the audit report. This is a plan to say, this is what we're doing, and a guide for us to achieve what the entire council has stated from the day that they were elected and came on board in November. So the turnaround plan, like I said, it goes through the table of contents, introduction, definition of a turnaround plan, current city status, city goals, development of a turnaround plan. If we can analyze Fort Stockton's, the project description, through multiple strategic planning sessions, workshops throughout the fiscal 2003, 2004, with participation from staff personnel, staff supervisors, the mayor, and all city council members. I don't think that they had an audit committee on there, but I think it was specifically the council that handled this. The city of Fort Stockton has identified 3 major areas within its operations that need to be improved, added, in order to assure a turnaround from this current condition. It is the goal of the city officials and administration to return the city to financial stability, improve the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, and to establish best-in-class management procedures. The task of a turnaround will require changes in long-held standards of accountability and an absolute commitment to the community to provide a level of service that is unmatched by other municipalities. It will require the support of many change agents within the public, the citizenry, excuse me, and especially within City Hall. I believe that all of these points that they bring up, or what I've heard the council and what I've heard the committee state in our council and our committee. Project methodology. City Manager Valenzuela has scheduled planning workshops with all the department supervisors. The department supervisors were encouraged to share in the decision-making process through a series of team-building activities and brainstorming sessions. The staff identified 55 revenue enhancement generating ideas and 45 possible expense reduction areas. These meetings, the City of Floresville's administration holds weekly meetings with key staff, monthly meetings with all supervisors in the field, in the office, police department, everybody else. So 5 action committees were then established. Each committee was composed of department supervisors who share the combined expertise to address the assigned areas of improvement. The ideas developed during the workshops were then researched and discussed in detail by the committees. Their committees were based on the staff themselves. The committees then identified the best practices of other cities and made comparisons to the city of Fort Stockton. Where possible, the team interviewed representatives from these cities to understand the details of the practices. Recommend solutions were then presented to Mr. Valenzuela. What I did in my 2-day discussion was basically that. And prior to that, I know that the comptroller has done that, utilized her skills from working in different municipalities and also contacting people, and I believe the city secretary has done that, staff-wise. These action committees' recommendations were followed by strategic planning sessions between the mayor, the council, the city council, the city manager, and the director of finance. The sessions addressed both short and long-term planning with an emphasis on restoring solid financial strength. The city manager and his administrative team then used this information in combination with their expertise to create the turnaround plan objectives, timing, accountabilities, detail, etc., as here and documented. The ultimate goal of the city administration is to reach a best-in-class management status. What this means is that each city department will be managed to peak efficiency with constant input from supervisors who look for better ways to improve services, decrease expenses, and increase revenues. This in itself is something that's never happened with the staff here at the city of Floresville. They've never been included in making decisions or providing solutions to the problems, which is something that has started. And the members of the city council who have been here for many years, who have friends, distant relatives or relatives, whatever it may be, know that that's been the case, and know that if the attention that was requested or demanded by this council hasn't been taken seriously, then you know that your words have been heard throughout the staff, and they themselves, some that have great potential and others that have limited capability of getting their ideas across, still do, because it means something to them. They know the circumstances and they have a buy-in because it's their city. Definition of a turnaround plan, this is a key, just to show you successful turnaround efforts begin with a vision for what the organization wants to accomplish. The end state vision provides the guidance for the rest of the plan. The vision is supported by a series of strategies that lay out what the organization needs to accomplish in order to achieve the vision. These strategies provide the high-level approach to the turnaround effort. Vision and strategies are not sufficient to turn around an organization, though. In addition, there are 4 components that are essential to drive results. An identification of critical priorities to affect change, one of which is the capital projects list that were listed on that board were started by the council, and a list of specific actions imperative to undertake, metrics, target, and accountabilities to track the change vigorous follow-up and all required actions and metrics to ensure progress. Basically, the plan addresses the following: what to do, how to do it, how to measure progress, how to ensure progress or success. This is the interesting part on current city status. Where are we? And this is the city of Fort Stockton. City of Fort Stockton has experienced problems with budgetary monitoring, lack of yearly charge fees review process, lack of inventory control measures, insurance payout obligations free services, overstaffing in certain departmental areas, property repair, city hall roof had to be replaced, not covered by insurance, and revenue shortfalls due to untypical weather. Excessive rain heavily affects water revenues, etc. These problems have depleted the city's cash flow and have resulted in a negative fund balance of $805,387 end of year 2004. If you just catch some of those issues that they've got are some of the same issues that we have and that we've had. Also, other problems have persisted for the city. Basic services, i.e. street repair maintenance, have been adversely affected by the lack of proper equipment and or outdated, fully depreciated equipment. On October 21st, 2003, the city council hired a new city manager, David Valenzuela, MBA. A new director of finance was also hired several months later. Mr. Valenzuela made changes to the organizational chart and established new positions, eliminating the director of public works position, the director of city services to the director of city services. The new position oversees monitors. The new position, oversees/monitors the day-to-day departmental operations, which allows the new city manager the opportunity to plan and implement changes throughout the organization. Thanks to forward thinking by the city council and the economic development board, the city is in a prime position to recruit new business to the community. It goes on to list what projects that they've had. Each of these projects has a potential to greatly boost the city's economy through creation of jobs and increase revenue through sales tax, etc. Same thing that's happening in our city of Floresville, highlighted that we are in a position that we can succeed, or that we will succeed if we make the necessary changes that this council and this committee has said that we have to make. However, before this can happen, the city must first address infrastructure concerns, which include the reconstruction of the street, citywide refurbishments of all streets, and the expansion of the current landfill. They've operated their own landfill. Although the city is in a great position for future growth, all areas of concern, namely the financial condition, must be addressed in order to ensure that the city will be prepared to tackle any roadblocks that may arise. And the roadblocks are issues like we had last year. If we would have had reserves, if we would have had better financial planning, we could have sustained and not had a negative fund balance. City's goals, where we want to be. And I'm gonna, after I finish that, I will just give you a quick brief on what is included in there, and then we can go to the turnaround plan 2013-2014 on the city of Floresville that was formatted for this committee to review and to add and to modify and to give staff more recommendations. I know that the comptroller has done her portion of what processes have been in place or put in place from the 2010-2011 audit. Although the city has experienced cash flow problems and deficit for the last 5 years, and ours, if you saw Standard & Poor's, there have been 2 prior years of deficit, the potential for a speedy turnaround is not impossible. Many key areas within the city services were not addressed, namely the rate adjustment for services. The new administration found that some services have not been adjusted in over 15 years. With inflationary increases every year, it's easy to understand that diminishing returns would occur. Below is a listing of the areas where the city will experience the greatest increase in revenue and reduction in expenses in the shortest period of time. It goes through there to talk about the water and sewer rate study that will be presented to this council on the 28th, which is Thursday, with the recommendations, which has been a process that is well over 12 months in the making. Something that we have to look at. He goes through personnel. January 2004, City Manager Valenzuela implemented an organizational right-sizing strategy and reduced the workforce by 6 positions. His current focus is in reducing the number of supervisors to a more efficient number. We, in the staff's recommendation, it's to not fill 5 in the general fund and 2 in the water and sewer. Personnel evaluation. A new evaluation system will be implemented, allowing for a 360-degree evaluation of each member. Each staff member will be evaluated by his or her supervisor, his peers and staff that he or she may supervise over. The new system will allow the city to reward only the most productive, dedicated personnel. Employees will be paid on performance. It's something that has been started, that was started by City Secretary when she was the Director of Administrative Services, and one of the plans of human resource. City of Fort Stockton owns multiple properties that are not being used. A preliminary count has a number of properties to 22. The properties that do not or will not have an impact on future growth of the city will be sold. Municipal court, it lists about municipal court and the efficiency of the police officers working with a municipal court for safety reasons, but at the end of enforcing safety, revenues are generated in addition to that. Budget, the city has witnessed an increasing deficit in the general fund with expenses exceeding revenues for 5 years in a row. The new fiscal 2004-2005 will be closely monitored and strictly enforced. Any decline in revenues will be matched with an equal cut in expenses. Each department supervisor will receive a copy of his or her budget expenditures for the previous month. Any supervisor who exceeds his or her budget will be required to meet with the city manager and the director of finance to explain the overage. A solution will then be drawn up between the three and implemented by the supervisor. Continued overages will result in disciplinary actions for the offending supervisor. If necessary, the supervisor will be replaced. And as we did on the staff's recommendation, he added in his additions of where these costs, he was looking, recap of forecasted amounts, their landfill, septic disposal, meter replacement, meter, sewer meter, personnel, cemetery, and gave a total. This recap only takes into account the figures that the city can forecast with relative accuracy. The other items mentioned above were not included in this forecast, but it will have a definite impact on revenues and expenditures. We move on, and I will stop talking and give you some water to allow who the committee would like to hear next, if it's our comptroller or the committee itself. Turnaround?
I just have a quick question. Do you have any more copies of those available? The
Yes.
turnaround plan?
Yes.
So I can review
Is
that and the turnaround.
that appropriate? You fine with that?
This is a public meeting, so everything in here is.
Yeah,
This,
turnaround plan.
as stated,
Monica's probably making sure
Okay.
they're not copying.
as stated, we mirrored a turnaround plan dated 2013, 2014, just because we were already in the 2013 year. We can do 2013, 2014, or if we said 24 to 36 months, we can say 2013 through 2015, whatever the committee decides. City of Floresville submitted by, on ours, would say Audit Committee for Mayor Dan Agadas and City Council members. I just dated February 28, 2013. Table of contents, title, introduction, definition of a turnaround plan, current city status, and city goals were what the staff worked on. Introduction, project description. It is a goal of the city officials and administration, and like I said, this is just the staff's portion. to present to the committee. It is the goal of the city officials and administration to return the city to financial stability. I believe that that is key. Improve the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, which is something that we're worked on and we continue to work on with our organizational chart, talking about beefing up our permits department to be able to handle the new businesses and the new development coming in a timely manner so that we can improve the services on that end to get more developers in our area. And establish best-in-class management procedures, which is something that the office of the city manager would strive for, and I know the requirement of the city council as a whole. The task of the turnaround require changes in long-term health standards of accountability, which is an issue that has been addressed over and over, and an absolute commitment to the community to provide a level of service that is unmatched by other municipalities, word for word from the Fort Stockton, but in the same context and the same commitment that the city staff wants. It will require the support of many change agents within the public, the citizenry, and especially within City Hall. Always, we ask the public's input. We need the public's input, and we always say that if change needs to happen, it needs to happen here first. Project methodology. On December 13, 2012, the Floresville City Council appointed the following council members and staff members to the Audit Committee per the Floresville City Charter: Councilman Jim Miller, Councilwoman Sherry Castillo, Councilman Eric Rodriguez, City Manager Andy Johnson, Comptroller Laura Fagan. On January 10, 2013, the Floresville City Council appointed the following citizen representatives to the Audit Committee per the Floresville City Charter: Mrs. Deborah Conley, Mr. Doug Jones. Page 4, the Audit Committee met on the following dates to direct the work of the independent auditor as to the scope of the annual audit and any matters of concern with respect to internal controls, receive the report of the internal auditor and present that report to the City Council with any recommendations from the committee, and to formulate an insolvency plan. I put insolvency because that's how we've listed it over and over. January 14, 2013, Q&A with independent auditor. January 18, 2013, received preliminary audit findings from independent auditor. January 28, 2013 is blank because I could not recall specifically what the topic was of that committee meeting. February 11, 2013, provided Audit Committee staff recommendations for insolvency plan. February 25, 2013, report on meeting, provided subsequent documents from financial advisor. Page 5, definition of a turnaround plan. I don't have to reread it. It's specifically verbatim by the Fort Stockton one, which is what to do, how to do it, how to measure progress, and how to measure success. Under current city status, where are we? What was done here was specifically the issues addressed by the independent auditor. One, we must take into account that the first item cited in the preliminary audit findings is that the books and records kept by the city have substantially improved since the 2011 audit. This was due to contractual CPA Tom Smith and current comptroller Laura Fagan's hard work. It's and I will correct myself, it is what the auditor stated, plus additions by the also city manager. Under monitoring, the future deterioration of general fund from 2011 to 2012 was due to legal and professional fees paid in 2012, as cited in the preliminary audit findings. Current budget for legal fees under administration is $100,000, $75,000 for professional fees. It has become apparent due to the staff's task that too many individuals affiliated with the city are seeking legal advice from the city attorney's office without prior approval, which in turn results in additional costs. In addition, boards or committees conducting assigned tasks do not have individual budgets for services. Finding substantial discourse within the community resulted in unbudgeted expenditures that had to be addressed. Attached legal service breakdown. This is, again, current city status. Where are we?
Where's the attachment? I don't have that attachment.
That was the attachment on the previous staff recommendations that you got.
Do you have a copy of that plan that you're reading?
Yes, sir. The general fund deficit in cash of $384,661 at 9/30/12, and payables outstanding of $177,468, citing the preliminary audit findings will have to be addressed by increased revenue sources and limited spending. First, the process will take approximately 24 to 36 months to totally correct the liabilities exceeding asset situation. In addition, the city will have to build a 3-month reserve to ensure uninterrupted city services in case of unforeseen circumstances. Attached salary spreadsheet, and again, that was part of the packet that we received by the audit committee on the staff's recommendation in the last go-round. 4, in FY 2016, the city will have a debt service repayment of $1,756,706, which was cited in the preliminary audit findings. The amount in question is a 4/8 portion of $1,291,389. Although sales tax revenues continue to increase, the intent of the restructuring was to allow time for the same to become established and generate more revenues, the city to grow and collect additional sales tax monies, and the refinancing to occur in 2016. 5, the ramifications of going concern could be detrimental to the future of the city. Credit ratings will be affected, and the ability to borrow money in an effort to grow our town will substantially be affected. We can attach everything that was already given to the committee by the bond council, and we can add the stuff that was done by our financial advisor. The ramifications, we've already got that. The rates charged utility customers are in correspondence with the last ordinance passed. Those are the 6 current city status. Where are we in the city goals? And this is again, it states on there where we want to be. Staff recommendations. Continue daily monitoring by comptroller and assistant. Continue monthly reporting requirements directed by city council. Staff recommendations: limit the authorized personnel who seek services from legal and professional representative. All workers should have prior approval from the office of the city manager or city mayor, something that we discussed at the council that would have to be altered depending on the outcome of whatever the council decides. Seek requests for qualification, requests for proposal of both services, grade staff positions, the budget amount. Limit use of both services to ensure funds are available for entire fiscal year. Adequately charge for services rendered in permits department. Be transparent in total city operations in an effort to minimize discourse within the community. Staff recommendations: liabilities, leave the 5 positions vacant to the general fund for a reduction of 2012-2013 budget of $215,420. In addition, leave the 2 positions vacant in the water and sewer fund for a reduction of 2012-2013 budget of $124,653. Free salary increases for 24 to 36 months, with the exception of those covered under collective bargaining or potentially negotiated with association representatives. Discontinue the retiree insurance coverage for